Welcome to The Good Ride. I'm James Beastie, and today we're talking about the United Shapes Horizon. I got this courtesy of Gravity Sports at Mount Bachelor. If you're up there, check out that shop. Their staff is incredibly knowledgeable, and they're all about letting you try before you buy. They have a lot of boards there for demo, including the United Shapes Horizon and their entire United Shapes line, as well as a lot of other brands. So check them out. They're one of the best shops I've ever dealt with in my long, expansive career. I got on this 2 days in some midwinter varied conditions, a lot of freezing fog, so sorry about that with the camera footage. You'll have to trust me that it was actually more fun than it looked. One day was more on the groomer side with a little bit of thick, wet powder. I rode it centered. The second day was a little bit more on the powder day kind of side, more off-piste, and I rode that set all the way back. Both days I rode it with my Ride Torrent boots and Union Atlas bindings. To talk sizing, this 155 felt a little small for me. I'm even under its recommended weight range at 190. With the United Shapes Cadet, that 158 felt great. It turns really well for me. I do wish that they had different sizing and they had something in like a 157 that was similar to the width of the Cadet 158 that I absolutely love. Usually a board that width doesn't work that well for my size 9 boots, but for some reason that Cadet does. And the same thing is applicable with the Horizon. You can size up with this. So let's talk snowboard dating app, some things that'll make you want to swipe right. This is a very versatile board with an incredible setback on board for a shape like this. You can ride this centered on groomers and then set it way far back in powder, and you don't need 2 boards to do it. This has a pretty good base. This has pretty good pop, and it has a fun turning experience. It's very easy to ride switch. I thoroughly enjoyed this board, even though it doesn't fit me that well. Some things that'll make you want to swipe left. The sizing doesn't work as well for people like me. The edge hold is very good, but if you see a lot of hard to icy snow, you might want a different board. You also need full-size disc bindings to utilize the setback inserts. Now let's talk shape. This is tapered and directional, but it only has 4 mil of taper. The Cadet doesn't have a lot either. That has 5 mil, but this feels more centered on board than the already centered feeling Cadet. And when set back, it feels a little less set back and directional as the Cadet, but still way more than almost any other all mountain board you might encounter. It doesn't have that typical tapered, washy feel. When it comes to the camber profile, you have camber well past the inserts that goes almost to the tail and then has a good bit of early rise before the nose, but has that full camber feel that most of us like when one-footing, off a chair, flat basing, or going down a long flat cat track. This tracks incredibly well and feels great. I think committed intermediates could ride this, but advanced to expert riders will love this. It's got enough camber to give you that almost full camber feel, but it doesn't mess with you if you're not feeling 100% on your game, you're skidding your turns that day more than you normally do. It's not going to punish you if you're having one of those days, and that's what I really like about this and the Cadet. When it comes to edge hold, this would probably be the one place I'd like to see a little bit more. I'd love to see a little disruption in this, because when I did hit a hard patch or two, it did well, but it didn't do as well as some of those disrupted side cuts. So if they had just a mellow disruption, man, it would be hard not to recommend this all the time. But as it stands now, it's very competent. Just don't get it if you're riding on the East Coast or icy places. Flexing this Horizon, it's a lot stiffer than I remember from a few years back when I tried this. The nose is a little softer, and so is the tail. There's a little bit of give. It's pretty stiff between the feet. And overall, there's a pretty medium stiff flex. It is softer than the Cadet and a little easier to access on an ollie. It's a little easier to butter off the nose and tail. Both are pretty doable. And overall, I like this flex personality. I wouldn't say it's a freestyle flex personality. It feels more all mountain. When it comes to uneven snow, this isn't all time, but it's very competent. It's very good for all day riding in hard, uneven snow and soft, uneven snow. It's a good all day ride. If I had the 159, I would have no problems. When it comes to pointing it, you can go straight, no problem. If you need to line up for a big kicker in the park, or you want to launch off something big on the mountain, this will track incredibly well into it. It's not something you get if you like to go fast. Neither really is the Cadet, but the Cadet is better for that. There are better boards for going straight and fast in the all mountain and freeride world, but it's no slouch, and I never felt like the side cut was fighting me and not allowing me to go straight when I needed to. When it comes to base glide, I love this all black base. If you've watched a lot of my reviews, you know I like black bases. They're easy to repair. They seem to glide better than bases with color or clear bases do. It's not the fastest of fast, but when well waxed, it's upper tier for sure. Now, when it comes to turning, I felt like the Horizon initiated a turn really fast. I think even if I was on the 59, it would be very quick too, probably more medium quick though. And when I got the edge engaged on reference, it had a very good between the feet centered kind of turn that didn't feel washy on the tail if you center weighted it, front foot weighted it, or back foot weighted it when you turned. It doesn't have any particular needs, and I really like that neutrality to allow any kind of mood for turning. And when I got this edge committed, the spring out of the turn is pretty good. I did like the Cadet a little bit better. I think that stiffer flex and having the right size board did a little bit better for me. But if I was on a 59, this would be a very satisfying turning experience with pretty good pop out of the turn. And when it comes to powder, this does incredibly well if you compare it to most all mountain boards. If you set it all the way back at a 22.25 inch stance width on the setback inserts, you've got to use full-size discs, you can get 4.375 inches back from center of board. That's incredible for what I'm calling an all mountain board. That's better than most freeride boards. So when you use those setback inserts, this transforms into a much more directional feeling, much better floating freeride board. Now, the United Shapes Cadet can do it better. You can get 5.5 inches back from center of board, which is massive, at a 22 inch stance width. So if you're more into directional riding and directional float in powder, the Cadet's gonna be the better choice, but this is better than almost any other all mountain board. And I felt it floated very well, even for a smaller size than I'd wanna be on. Riding switch is very doable. I really like the Cadet riding switch, but I like the Horizon even more. This feels really good between the feet, and you don't really feel that 4 mil of taper. You can ride this switch all day. This is gonna be a really fun board for hitting kickers and going in the pipe. Not so much for jibs, but it's doable if you're a very good jibber. Not gonna see me there. Too old, too broken for that shit these days, especially if you wanna keep seeing review after review. So overall, the ability to have that much setback on board in powder with setback inserts and full-size discs really transforms this board and makes it feel almost like two boards. This and the Cadet are the closest I've ever felt to that, and I'm gonna be recommending this a lot. I do wish they had different sizing that would better fit my specs, but for a lot of people out there, this is gonna be a great solution. So there you have it.